Hello everyone, I'm Weston Otherwise, and in today's video we are going to break down the upcoming severe weather coming to portions of the United States. And this may actually cause a tornado outbreak or severe weather outbreak, so diving right into it, we do actually have an enhanced risk of severe weather across portions of Montana, North Dakota, and Minnesota into portions of Wisconsin and through the Great Lakes. We actually have a marginal risk in Iowa and Missouri, along with one here in Colorado and New Mexico. Slight risk is on the outside of that enhanced risk, though, and we do have a pretty large marginal risk extending from the border of Montana and Idaho into parts of Michigan. Now, we are going to see the potential for a tornado outbreak today, as we actually have a 10% hatched tornado risk in play today. So we're going to have to keep a very close eye on that. We do have a 30% hatched wind risk and 30% hatched hail risk. Tomorrow, severe weather does not slow down. We have another slight risk extending from portions of Michigan all the way back into portions of Pennsylvania and New York. We're going to keep an eye on that large marginal risk outside of that, as you can tell. So we're going to have to be watching anywhere from in the Northeast back into Montana for severe weather. And that does actually have 3 separate 2% tornado risks, 15% non-hatched wind and hail risks. Severe weather yet again does not stop. Another marginal risk of severe weather in the Northeast. And then we have a slight risk of severe weather again across portions of Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, Iowa, and Nebraska. And from Wisconsin all the way into portions of Oklahoma, Texas, and New Mexico, up into portions of Montana, we do have another marginal risk. But today's the big day, and here's what the latest HRRR is showing. I'm just going to have to reload here, as these are a bit behind, actually. So if we go ahead in here and just get the full run, the 14Z run, you can tell storms are going to fire today in Montana, and those are the ones that are going to be producing that severe threat in portions of Montana. But the real storms fire right around 4Z, and it says Saturday, but this is around 5 o'clock, 6. So we're going to have to keep an eye on this, but you can tell we do have multiple supercells that fire. Now, these ones in portions of Minnesota are a lot more clustered together, which would limit the tornado potential. But that SIG-TOR values, they are definitely there today, and we cannot rule out an intense tornado. We have values climbing up around 11, so we're going to keep an eye on that for you. And those storms, we're going to have to watch, but there is actually a decent chance that we are live today covering this severe weather event. And here's what the NAM-NST model is showing. It is also picking up on discrete cells, and it usually leans more linear. Now, obviously, it does turn this into a bit of a linear system, but it does actually pick up on the supercells, which is why I do think we could have a tornado outbreak. And I'm not ruling out, based on that latest HRRR and NAM run, I would not be surprised to see a moderate risk of severe weather across that area with a 15% hatch tornado risk. Highly unlikely, but I'm not ruling it out entirely. Here we are. This is going to be for here in portions of Iowa and Missouri for today on the 14Z HRRR. The ongoing storms are going to push out, and that is what that risk is for. So we could actually see some marginally severe storms throughout the rest of the morning, but other than that, this risk across this area is likely going to be dropped. Moving on to portions here near New Mexico, Arizona, we're going to watch here for storms to fire. But if we go and look at the 14Z HRRR, let's go 14Z, and then back here in the southwest, you can tell storms could fire as early as 3 o'clock, but they do not look to be too intense, and they do not look to be long-living. So maybe some quarter-sized hail and up to 60-mile-an-hour wind gust will be possible today. Here's the 12Z HRRR for tomorrow, what we are going to be expecting. you can tell we're going to see storms around the 7Z. So this is going to be around 9 o'clock tonight. We actually are going to see from that marginal risk of severe weather and along with slight risk across this area. We are going to actually watch for some storms that could bring some gusty winds and large hail. And then really the threat is really in the morning hours, as you can tell. We do have a pretty, it's not really a line of storms, but it's a cluster of storms across portions of Michigan. And we are going to watch this as we could actually get a brief tornado up here in portions of central into northern Michigan. So we're going to keep an eye on that, but nothing too crazy, I think. Here's the NAM for this, and you can tell yet again it shows pretty clustered. So we're going to keep an eye on it, but I don't think anything too crazy is going to come out of this. Here's the GFS, and this is what we could be looking at here in the future for about the rest of June. This is the jet stream. As you can tell, it does look like we are going to get our next trough ejection here in the next week. This is actually on June 23rd. This is next Monday. We're going to have to be keeping an eye on this. And if this is to eject like this, we may actually have to watch here as our low pressure system would be spinning. Let me get my pen. Our low pressure system would be spinning here near the Rockies. Honestly, there's multiple scenarios, and this is this upcoming Wednesday. So next Wednesday, I should say. If this is able to eject off the Rockies like this, we would have to watch for a return of severe weather across that area. But there's definitely a lot of things that we're keeping an eye on, but it does look like we are going to get a shortwave trough here by the end of next week. We're going to have to watch this area for severe weather again, and we have already had multiple severe weather events over the last week. But overall, our jet stream looks to stay lifted pretty far to the north, which would promote more severe weather in portions. I should just draw it out. Portions of the northern plains into the Ohio Valley and into the northeast across this area is where the majority of the severe weather should stay. But we are going to have to watch for some of these systems that may try, like these short waves here, if they are able to drop a bit farther south. We are going to have to watch, but I do think severe weather should stay on the quiet side. For the start of July, I do think our jet stream is going to be lifted extremely far to the north. And that's whenever we have to start to watch for, yet again, these shortwave troughs to come through. And that's whenever we start to watch this area again for those July summer storms. But overall, nothing too crazy. And if we go and look at precipitation, look at SLP, and this is what radar could look like. And as we can tell, looks like it is going to get pretty quiet there. This is the beginning of next week. And here we go into Wednesday. We see maybe that severe weather event up there in portions of the northern plains, because that does look to eject a lot farther to the north like this instead of like this. So as of now, it looks like our severe weather threat is going to be across this area. But we are about a little less than a week out, so things can definitely change. But overall, it does look like severe weather events should stay to portions of the northern plains through the Ohio Valley into the northeast. Now, I am watching the end of June on June 30th, as this is one of those shortwave troughs that is pushing through. And this actually does look quite intense, and I have looked at this in the past. And it's been pretty consistent, and we do actually have a decent amount of CAPE in this area, around 2,000 joules per kilogram. The most unstable CAPE is around 3,000. And then our mid-level lapse rates are not the greatest, along with our low level. There is actually not that much wind shear, but we are going to have to watch that, as that definitely could turn into something, as we are well over a week out. But like I had said, in the first week of July, it does look like we are going to get pretty quiet in terms of severe weather, as our jet stream, you can tell, is going to be lifted extremely far to the north. And that is going to promote those more severe weather events in portions of Montana, North Dakota, and parts of northern Minnesota, with most of those events staying in portions of Canada. So we're going to have to watch that very closely. And here's the jet stream on the European model. You can tell it's kind of painting that same picture. And it does not have that ejecting off the Rockies next week. It does have it staying, or I should say it does have it ejecting, but it doesn't have it ejecting like this, as it ejecting more like that, meaning severe weather would likely be across that area right there. If we go ahead and look here at precipitation, here's what radar could look like. And this is heading into next week now. So here we go. We're watching for that ejection. And right here on Wednesday, you can tell does not look too intense. So you can tell on Wednesday we do actually get that event across this area, which the GFS was picking up on, which tells me that this is more than likely going to eject off to the north of Kansas instead of through Kansas, which would promote a severe weather event likely across that area. But we are going to have to watch it. So make sure to drop a like and subscribe if you are new here, as I will keep you updated with the latest on all these systems. I will see you in